Good morning. Hope you're having a great day. So, this week's Torah portion is the portion of Et Hanan. The Et Hanan is a beautiful portion. It's so poignant and it's so critical to the last book of Moses speaking to the Jewish people. Within it, we have the repetition of the 10 Commandments, which maybe we'll speak about tomorrow, and the nuances of the differences. And then, of course, we have the Shema. The words that we've been saying for thousands of years have been on the lips of the Jewish people. Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. And in it, we go on, and Moshe tells the Jewish people, these words should be on your heart. You should teach them to your children, and you should speak to them. In this little prayer encapsulates the story of the Jewish people. When you sit in your house, when you go on your way, when you lie down, and when you wake up. The words that Moshe told us. What are the words? You see, Moshe was the heroic leader of the Jewish people who took the Jewish people out of Egypt, who split the sea for them, who brought them to Sinai to receive the Torah, who shepherded them in the desert for 40 years, miracles upon miracles, the manna, the cloud of glory, the wells of Miriam, the duck, all the miracles that happened. This is the Moses. And when Moses is speaking to the Jewish people, and he tells us to say the Shema twice daily, in the morning, in the evening, what does he want to be remembered as? The words that he taught us. What's Moshe called to the Jewish people? Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher. Although Moshe did all these miraculous things to us, Moshe understood that what he gave the Jewish people most is the words of Torah, the intellect of Torah, the laws of Torah, the passion of Torah, the faith, the ethics, the morals. In fact, the name Moshe Rabbeinu is the same numerical value as 613, which is the amount of mitzvot we have. And what does Moses tell us? He tells us, firstly, we must teach this to our children, that ultimately the only hope for Judaism to survive, and look how we've survived for 3,500 years nearly, is through teaching our children. But he says two things. He says, B'shachbecha, first he says, B'lechtecha v'derech, B'shivtecha b'visecha v'lechtecha v'derech, when you sit in your home and when you travel. The Torah is not only when we're in the land of Israel, it's not only when we have the temple, it's not only when we have the royalty of King David and the power of the royal Sanhedrin, but it's uvelechtecha v'derech. Also when you're traveling in exile, through thousands of years of exile, never forget those words that Moses taught us, those values, those mitzvot. That's what he wanted to be remembered on. And then he says, b'shachbecha v'kumecha. You see, b'shachbecha means when you lie down, and v'kumecha means when you wake up, when the light, when the sun rises, when there's hope, when things are looking beautiful and rosy. Of course you want to teach your children the mitzvah. But what about b'shachbecha? What about when you lie down? What about when the challenges and the struggles of exile, of anti-Semitism, of hate, of all the nations that want to annihilate Israel? Then also you must say the Shema. It's critical, Moshe tells us, to the future of the Jewish people. Moshe understood and wanted to be remembered as the one who taught us Torah, who taught us values, who gave us ethics, love, and nurture. You know, yesterday, there was this whole discussion in the Israeli government. Hamas doesn't want to have any negotiations. They put out these horrific videos of hostages digging their own graves, just like the concentration camps. The world is oblivious. They just scream at Israel. They just lie and demonize and blame Israel. Israel realizes there's no one to negotiate with, but we must annihilate Hamas. And we must get rid of this terror, which is right on our border. So there was a discussion, and Prime Minister Netanyahu was in favor of taking over the Gaza Strip back to Israel. Now just remember, 20 years ago this week, 10,000 Jews were forcibly uprooted from the holy land of Israel, from Judea and Samaria, from Gush Katif. And we were promised that things would get better. We were promised that things would be beautiful, we would have peace, and we would prosper with our neighbors, with love. But what happened? We got rockets, and we got missiles, and we got tunnels, and we got terror, and we got war after war. 2010, 2014, 2017, you name the year, Hamas had tried to annihilate us. If you look at the video that's been traveling around on YouTube, you see the video of one of the last people being evicted, crying and pleading with the police, I'm telling you what's going to happen, and he predicts exactly what's going to happen. Everyone looked at the people living in Gaza, the 10,000 Jews. Oh, we need so many police, an army, an IDF to protect 10,000 people. It's not worth it. But really, they were our buffer zone. They protected us from those rockets, from terror piling up on our perimeter. But nobody listened. And today we have to make the hard decision that if Hamas doesn't want to negotiate and the world wants to be oblivious, the world will recognize a Palestinian state to reward terror, but we will annex Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza. You know, I want to tell you a story that happened this Shabbos. For the last few years, there's been this guy who comes every summer to our shul with his wife and children. And he limps and he has a little bit of a challenge with his speaking. And I didn't know who he was. He comes from Israel every year. And yesterday, on Shabbos, he told me the story. This man was a soldier in the Givati Brigade. And he was in the Gaza Strip, in Gush Katif, in Kfar Darom, on the night of Tisha B'Av, Saturday night, 20 years ago. And he was watching last night, and there was an attack and an ambush from Palestinians. And the tanks came and ran, but he got hit and was rushed to the hospital in a coma. He spent 40 days in a coma. 40 days. He was the last injury, the last casualty in the Gaza Strip before the disengagement. He spent 40 days in a coma as he was engaged to his lovely wife. The doctor said, give up on him. Let's just pull the plugs. He's never going to get out. And then he woke up. He woke up. The love of his life stayed at his side. They got married. This coming winter, he's having a bar mitzvah for his son. That's the story of the Jewish people. We never give up hope. Here he is 20 years later, telling the story, proud to live in the Holy Land. He lives in Efrat, a defender of the Jewish people, a miracle who was in a coma for 40 days, but stood up to build a family. We might have made a mistake 20 years ago, but I think it's time for the Jewish people and for Israel to rectify the mistake we made back then. Just remember, when we get up and when we lie down, when it's hope and when it's dark, the words of Moses, of Torah, of the love that he taught us, should always be on our lips and in our hearts, as Moses commands us. God bless us and have a great